what about Lego itself just kind of makes that work?
That's a great question, Ian. Like creativity, there has to be an idea, right? So you got to come up with your idea. Lego has the idea for you, right? It's there. It doesn't have to be this. You could be the goblin, right? You could be a follower. You can, it it activates something in your brain like the flow state, right? You just, oh, okay, snap, snap. It's tactical. It's grounding. So like clicking things together and doing things with your hands, but
Mhm.
it's simple, right? Because every piece is going to fit together.
Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. I am your host, West, and today we are joined by another Jones who wrote Brick by Brick, Rebuilding Through Play, a book that explores the therapeutic side of building. But first, before we talk to another Jones, we are going to get into some brick banter. Well, everybody, as you might have noticed in the introduction, Grinch is not here tonight. He was having some Wi-Fi trouble. One of the fun things about moving is never having that all squared away. So um, he's working on it. He called in and we got it all sorted. He really wished he could be here tonight and appreciates your understanding. So Grinch, we wished you best of luck trying to sort that out and getting all settled in your new home. But for some brick banter this week, I don't think we have a ton. We kind of mentioned it last week at the top of the episode in our brick banter and exciting Lego news section that we're still kind of waiting some interesting reveals for the rest of the year, and we're pretty much still there. So, but we did get some interesting reveals that we will talk about in the exciting Lego news. Before we get there, though, I do want to mention this week in the North America is the week of Thanksgiving. Grinch and I will not be recording an episode for the Monday following Thanksgiving. That is Cyber Monday, if you're trying to get your calendar all squared away in your head. And so we will be spending time with our families, much deserved time off. Both of us are pretty busy right now. So that is what's happening for the next week. We will be back with our end of the year episodes following the Thanksgiving break, leading into the winter holiday. So thank you for joining us for that section. And next, let's talk about some exciting Lego news.
Exciting Lego news.
All right, so this week, as promised, we're getting more reveals kind of trickling in for January and March as the year's starting to wind down, which is really exciting because we're starting to see some really cool stuff. We still have some stuff yet to be revealed, but we're getting there, guys. So hold on. But up first, we got a reveal of the Lego F1 Academy Speed Champions race car. The Lego Technic 1966 Ford GT40 Mark II was revealed. The Lego Icons Autumn Cottage was revealed. The Lego Architecture City of Paris diorama was revealed. And the Lego Art Japanese Cherry Blossom art frame was revealed. And finally, we got the BrickLink Designer Program Series 9 finalists revealed. We'll share some information on that at the end of exciting Lego news. But what really stands out to us, and I got some notes from Grinch, so I'll mention those first. He wanted to specifically call out the Lego Icons Autumn Cottage, which he was really interested in some of the new recoloring of leaf pieces and some of the new leaf pieces, specifically that willow piece that makes up that kind of willow tree that's the kind of main tree build in the set. We both kind of mentioned not necessarily enjoying the leaves that are sort of fully molded. We started to see those in the Friends and I think the Dreams line over the last few years, and they're starting to make it into kind of the regular Lego and city building line. But at the same time, too, that willow tree, I don't know how you could do that in regular Lego bricks. and it just looks fantastic. And it is a really cool build. So I'm curious if in the future we're going to get those in a color other than orange. It'd be nice to see those in green to be able to make kind of like a spring or summer willow tree as well. So it's a really exciting set to see. I think it's a really fun inclusion in the garden series, which includes the Japanese Zen garden, the Spanish garden, and now the autumn cottage garden. It was originally thought to be the medieval garden, but that was not the case. I'm curious to see what type of garden they make next. So I think this is a bit of a sleeper series, I think, in my mind. Next, one of the things that really stands out for me is that Lego F1 Academy Speed Champions race car. And some really cool information about it is this is actually going to be a set, but it's also a real race car. It's part of the F1 Academy. And so Lego will be fully sponsoring a F1 race car for the F1 Academy, which I think is really cool. When we actually look at the Lego set itself, there are some really interesting new pieces here, some new molds. So that's really exciting to see. It does look like there's some differences between this car and the F1 race cars that we got earlier in the year, specifically some of the like the tire mud guards that were those new pieces that were released with this F1 line are not on this one. So they're using kind of the older design from like the Aston Martin and the uh, Mercedes-Benz F1 car that we had a few years ago. So just kind of an interesting change there. But other than that, a lot of the cool building techniques and pieces from the modern F1 line have carried over into this F1 Academy Speed Champions Lego race car. We also, some kind of big news, and this is a bit of speculation on my part. We know that in the F1 community next year, Audi is supposed to have a car and Cadillac is supposed to have a car too. And so it'll be interesting to see if Lego F1 pairs with either of those two new inclusions in the F1 scheme for new Speed Champion cars. So we'll just have to wait for the new year to see how that plays out. Some other interesting things from this week. We got the Lego Architecture City of Paris set. So this is a diorama featuring the Eiffel Tower kind of front and center. It looks like a cross between those Lego City Skyline sets and something out of like an art kind of set. So it's a really interesting shift for the architecture series, but it does kind of feature various buildings from Paris and France. Paris specifically in kind of an interesting frame. So it's a new twist on the Lego architecture series, but one that definitely feels a lot more grown up. And it's nice to see the architecture series getting a little more love. And then lastly, we have the Lego Art Japanese Cherry Blossom. And this one's really cool. It's an art scene featuring cherry blossoms. It's a lot more three-dimensional than I think it looks just kind of at first glance, which is always kind of interesting. And so we'll see how it does. I mean, I think it looks nice. I've mentioned on the show multiple times, I'd love to see Lego kind of shift its attention more towards, that area in the world. And I think there's a lot of untapped potential with that. So it's cool to see these sets being made, and I'd love to see kind of where Lego's going with this. And lastly, we got the Bricklink Designer Program Series 9 sets, the finalists revealed today. Crowdfunding begins on October 7th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And so that's exciting. So still a whole year away before we can actually start crowdfunding these sets. There's 5 of them. There's the Wild West Blacksmith by Lucky. I think we actually talked about his set in a previous Lego Ideas submission. There's the Fisherman's Village, the Sleepy Dragon Inn, the Pumpkin Patch, and the Wood Brick Freight Depot, which is a kind of train depot, train station looking set with a small section of track. And all of these just look really, really fun. The Fisherman's Village, I think, is probably the largest set just based on how everything looks. And it's a kind of a fishing village that's built up on a dock build. Just that one looks really fun. I mean, every single one of these sets has something that I think is just really neat. So I think this is a really strong series for the Bricklink Designer Program. So really exciting to see. And that's really it for the exciting Lego news. Like I talked about, we're expecting some more reveals here shortly. So Stick with us as we get more reveals, and we'll be excited to talk about that when they come. But next, we are going to talk to our guest today, Another Jones, and talk to her about writing their book, Brick by Brick, Rebuilding Through Play.
Today's topic.
Well, joining us today is the author of Brick by Brick, Rebuilding Through Play with Lego Bricks, a book that blends creativity, mindfulness, and emotional well-being. Their work shows how intentionally engaging with play can restore focus, calm the mind, and help us reconnect with ourselves. We're excited to explore the therapeutic side of building. Welcome to the podcast, Another Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for making time and coming onto the show. And before we get started, I want you to congratulate you on completing your book. That is not something that everyone gets to say. I wrote a book. So congratulations on getting that completed and published, and it's out there on Amazon for everyone to go purchase, or any other sort of retail that it's available at. So take a look, go look it up if you're interested, and yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a weird feeling, like you said, like not a lot of people write books, but I mean nowadays you can just get things done if you put your mind to it. So I appreciate that. Thanks. I don't know what to do with my hands when somebody says something nice about me.
Oh, well, like I said, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's start with your Lego story. How did you first get into Lego? I know you mentioned it a little bit in the book, but I'd like to kind of dive a little deeper. What kind of
Yeah,
got you started?
sure. I like to say I inherited my Lego collection. My sons were big Lego fans as little boys. Like, they give birthday gifts, what else do you buy a boy, right? And so as they got older and into the teenage years, they just, started collecting dust and they break and then they put it in a bag. And so we moved and it was all in a bin. And I was like, what are we doing with these? And they're like, I don't know, Mom, just get rid of them. And I'm like, no, these are expensive. I'm not just giving it away. I'll figure out what to do. So I just started unboxing, what we had and putting them on display in my office. And here I am, an AFOL, right?
Wow.
Self-proclaimed.
So it's funny because in the AFOL community, right, we talk about our dark ages, and that's the period of time for those who are not initiated and kind of the lingo, the period of time from when you were a child and you were what they call a K-fall, or child fan of
Oh,
Lego. And then you have your dark age. It's the period in between that and becoming an AFOL, right? And many of us have that dark age period around high school,
yeah.
college. It sounds like your sons kind of went through that themselves a little bit.
Yep.
Have they come out on the other end? Have they become AFOLs themselves, or
Not yet. They're in their teenage years.
okay?
So like it's
So there's still
still
time.
early, but my son is very particular with certain sets that I have on display. So, Mom, don't move it. I'll move it for you. Where do you want
Mm-hmm.
it?
Even though you rebuilt it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like an inheritance that he controls still, right? It's a trust now. So who knows who's going to have these sets next?
Oh, wonderful. And it's funny, right? Because out of your child's dark age, you unintentionally, much like a phoenix kind of coming from the ashes,
Oh my
became your
gosh.
own AFOL, right? Like,
Yeah,
which isn't really the
absolutely.
cycle there. So, what a great story. We've heard a lot of that's kind of our standard opening question for our guests. And so we've heard a lot of different variations, but we've never heard one quite like this. So,
Yeah, it's the
um,
Inheritance Club. Come join me.
yeah,
We break bricks.
yeah, as Grinch and I mentioned on our podcast and in previous episodes, we actually got our collection as a child from my preschool teacher whose son went off to college, and so she gave his collection to us, and this was probably in like the mid to early 90s. And so our collection at home, our childhood Lego collection, not our adult one, the one that's all
That's
scratched up, and
amazing.
it's all like 80s and 90s Legos, and it's a huge mess, but it's, yeah, wonderful. It's a
Well,
great
that's
collection.
amazing. It's funny you say that because like after I bumped into a friend and I told her what are you doing? And all the catching up and I was telling her about my book and she goes, "You know what? I have Legos for you. And then I corrected her. That's when and then I knew I was an AFOL. You have
There
Lego
you go.
for me? And then she giggled, but she's like, I have some for you. And so she like brought all these bags of just random sets, like just, just said Charlene Star Wars, like a brand new book. She gave me these roses, like and every time I see her, she's like, here's another bag. And she's like, my cousin is her, their grandpa or something is 90 and he has sets from a
Oh,
long time
wow.
ago and they want to get rid of it. So I was like, bring it on over. So can't wait to bump into her again and see what else I'm going to inherit. So yeah, the inheritance is
Wonderful.
growing across Sacramento. So I know
There
I
you
could
go.
sell them, but I don't think I want to. It's fun.
It is. It is fun. And you're
Yeah.
growing your collection. So,
Yes,
and this one
literally.
is your collection this time. So,
Exactly. So back off, kids.
yeah.
A falls only.
So, in kind of now that you've become an AFOL, is there a theme that speaks to you specifically, or are you still kind of feeling that out?
There's two. So,
Okay.
of course, the botanicals because I'm a girl, and they don't die. And then I like brickheads.
Okay.
Um, they're
Okay.
fast, easy builds. I can take them with me somewhere, for traveling. We can build one and it's not going to, go too crazy. So, like, my kids didn't have a lot of brickheads. They had, the Star Wars ones, the fancy ones that went with their sets. So that was something that I was like, oh, this is something I can go do and start searching for and picking out the ones I like. But I like villain brickheads. It's specific. I want all
Oh,
the villain
okay.
ones. So, and then, the shows and the things I do like, but I like all the villains. It's fun.
I like that. That's a fun variation on specificity to the theme there.
Yeah.
And in the era of $500 Lego aquariums, the brickheads as a theme are extremely accessible. And like you said, like one of the things I personally like to do when I travel for work is if I'm there for a week or something, like I'll go to the Target and see if I can, what $30 Lego set can I pick up and build in my
Yep.
hotel room. And
Exactly.
something like a brickhead is perfect for that. And it's not
Exactly.
hard to pack back home and yeah, very mobile. So
Nope. I keep things like in a bin. And then, just depends where I am. So it's a little smaller for a brickhead one. And yeah, it just
yeah,
makes it easy, ready to go when I'm ready to brick. And it's fun, right?
absolutely.
And what I didn't know, like, is the insider point things.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that you don't get points for brickheads. It's only if you buy it at the Lego store that you get the original points. Like there's no QR code thingy to scan to get your
Mm.
20 points. And so like I was keeping all the catalogs to scan them later and I was like, oh man, there's nothing here. So yeah, lesson
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah. And that's been a newer feature too. And so yeah.
Oh, well, man, I
But still
missed
a
out.
nice thing that they do. But so you're clearly a VIP point. I mean,
Oh,
that's kind
yes.
of like step two of being an AFOL is it's
Oh,
admitting you're an
yes.
AFOL and then it's, how do I take advantage of it?
I have the original, they used to give the little plastic cards
Mm-hmm.
with the year on it. It was the year my son was born, so I still have that. And
Wow.
so, hopefully one day he can give it to his kids.
There you go. Yeah.
And the hair, it keeps going, right? The
Yeah,
legacy keeps
exactly,
going. The
exactly.
trust,
It's
it's now a
it's a
trust
new
Lego fund.
new inheritance of like, somebody passes away and they pass on their Lego VIP points to their children, right?
Exactly. My son is, he won't, so we have like tons of points and he doesn't want to use them. So I'm like trying to
Mm.
redeem for something. And he's like, do we want, but we're going to lose all those points. And I'm like, this is the reason to have the points. So yeah.
I mean, it's very fair. Although when you save up enough of them so that that $500 set becomes like a $200 set, that is a very satisfying feeling. So,
I think that's what
yeah.
he's waiting for, but he has that buyer's remorse, right?
Yeah.
Like he'll save a lot. I remember taking him to one of those, when they come to your city and at those convention things,
Mhm.
and he had saved all this money and I'm going to buy all these sets and bought all these sets. And the instant that he handed the money over and then walked away, he started crying. And I was like, what happened? Like, I thought you'd be happy. And he was like, I used all my money. And I was like, adult life. I was
Yeah.
like, but it was something you wanted. So yeah, this is
Yeah.
what your
Do it while
money
you
is for.
can.
Yeah,
While you don't
exactly. I
have
was
bills
like,
to pay.
exactly. I was like, your money is play money. Go spend it, kid. It'll replenish.
Yeah. Well, so then you've your two favorite themes. You have botanicals and brickhead villains specifically. Do you have a favorite set? And it doesn't necessarily have to be within those themes. So
Yes. I have, well, there's 3 right now. So the one
okay.
that I am from an Indian descent. So like I'm a
Mhm.
Hindu. So every Hindu woman dreams of going to the Taj Mahal. I
Mhm.
dream of building it. So I have been on the search for it, going and finding it. It's one of those retired sets that nobody can find. I did go into a reseller place and I found this one, the little
Oh
mini
yeah.
thing. So it's in my back stock of things to build, right? As we all have. And so I'll work on that soon, probably next week. And then the Birds of Paradise. I'm
Oh.
looking for that guy too, and I can't find it anywhere in Sacramento. So, and then I don't want to pay the $100,200 for anywhere else that's reselling it. So, I like a good deal.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
that
somebody will
one.
donate it to me. So, yeah. And then, uh, for the new sets, like they drop
Mhm.
something every month. I really want to see the gem one. The ones that are
Oh yeah.
crystals and gems. So
hmm
I thought that one would be fun for my Christmas list.
Well, if you guys are Costco members right now, it's at
We are.
Costco and it's
Oh,
for sale. So I mean, it's less than the Lego retail price. So
I know what I'm doing tomorrow. Oh my gosh, thanks for that advice.
absolutely, at least it is where I am. So I'm in the southeastern portion of the United States right now, and they're all over my Costco, and I've seen them on Instagram and TikTok and a few other locations. So can't guarantee it's in the Bay Area, but maybe
Yeah,
maybe not. So.
California. So, do you accept Cash App? Because yeah, I will. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll send
just
you my
kidding.
Venmo after the interview, and yeah, just we'll connect and we'll make that happen.
I love it.
Okay, well, wonderful. And then where can people find your work? Obviously, like I mentioned at the top, I mean, I bought your book off of Amazon. Is there
Thank
anywhere else
you.
or?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Another Jones on Instagram, and then TikTok, I'm and Another Jones. And the TikTok is more where I am just Lego, right? And it's more Lego content. I'm in my late 40s, so I'm not really good at TikTok. So I've got to figure out my rhythm. And, I started strong and then, yeah, like lifes, and I just stopped scrolling for a little bit. But yeah, either one of those platforms. You can also email but yeah, Instagram,
Okay,
TikTok, all the things.
wonderful. So let's talk about your book now. Brick by
Okay.
brick, rebuilding through play with Lego bricks. You when you first reached out to us, you said, "Hey, I've got this really cool book. You guys are talking about Lego. You're talking about, the therapeutic benefits of Lego. Like, I've got a book. I wrote a book about it." And we were like, "Well, yeah, we got to have you on the show and talk to you about it." So you said that this book is part memoir, part guide. Can you elaborate kind of what you meant by that?
Yeah, sure. Well, on page 8, I want to make sure that we do say this, the disclaimer part. This isn't here to tell you how to do therapy. We're not going to diagnose you. We're not going to prescribe or give any clinical advice. But really, it was, it was built in real time, right? I was going through, life was messy and things weren't polished and doing the things, right? So, there was going through therapy, anxiety, grief, and growth all at the same time while trying to clean up my garage with all these Legos. And it became an unexpected coping skill. When I would come home from therapy, I needed a space to just digest what I went through with all, it was group therapy, right? So it's not just my stuff. It's what other people are thinking. So you kind of have to wash that off before you walk into your home, right? So
Yeah.
I kept finding myself sorting or doing something with bricks before I engaged and did something else, right? And so it calmed me down. It put me in a funner mood, or I did, whatever else to get in the right zone before, you know, going into the world without, being in one of those other mind spaces.
Yeah, it got you in the headspace to kind of be able
Yeah.
to kind of it was the transitionary,
Yep.
mechanism to get you into that headspace to tackle
Absolutely.
whatever it is you had to tackle next. Which you mentioned coming back from therapy, but like I think for listeners, you know, if you're in a position where you're like, "Oh, I don't need this," or this isn't applicable, like if you're coming home from a tough day at work, this is
Hmm.
applicable, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a technique. If you like to come home from work and sit in your car for 10 minutes scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, like go sort some Lego bricks, go
Yeah.
get some fresh air, right? Like it's a lot better of a therapeutic response. So,
Right.
um
I'm a tactical person. I like doing things with my hands. I'm a maker. So yeah, the scroll is not satisfying to me. I don't like seeing, and I'm also in marketing and entertainment, so I know a lot of it's fake and all of that stuff is fluff. So Lego is real, right? And it gives me the why, and it's that's the memoir part, right? It's my whys, and then the guide part is how to do it, right? So there's no wrong way, there's no right way, and it's just personal, it's honest, it's, how you stay present. It's how you just stay youthful and, laugh at yourself a little. And, I invite you all to do it. You don't need these big fancy sets. You could just grab a handful, buy a little minifigure guy and zone out for 5 minutes and, sit outside or, in a coffee shop. You meet somebody because someone's going to come up to you and say, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you building?" And that's what happens all the time is, "Oh, what are you doing?" So I have to make sure I'm in a talkative mood if I go into a coffee shop with a set.
That's a good point. And I haven't even thought about that as like a way to just, in a location that wasn't my home. So
Hmm.
I commend you on taking it outside of the house too, because I think that's a wonderful idea. A great way to find out if people are AFOLs, right? If they
Yeah, right.
walk up to you and talk to you, right? Like
Yeah.
you kind of, it's a great way to signal to other people, like, this is what I like.
Well, there's nothing more better than going into a Lego store. There's no other store that does that. So I could go to the grocery store every day, right? I know I see the checkers, I see these people all the time. But if a lady in front of me has avocados and I have avocados, I can't be like, "Ooh, I like avocados too. And how many avocados do you have at home?" But in the Lego store, I can't say that. And they'll have conversate back. And I'm like, "Oh, and we'll get into a full conversation." So it's like built-in community.
Yeah, absolutely. And the store, you have a great Lego store when the employees are just as like open and engaging as some of the other customers are, and that's when it gets really fun. I mentioned a Grinch a few episodes ago. I was in a Lego store in San Antonio and just happened to talk with the person behind the counter, and we were talking about the pick a brick, and she's like, "Oh, if you like these, I've got a bunch in the back, like different colors. Do you want those too?" Like, but that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that conversation. So
Absolutely.
it's just connecting with
Absolutely.
people and
Absolutely.
in a
Get a
meaningful
big bag.
way, but at the end of the day, I I probably won't meet that person again. Like,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
still a great conversation. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like I told my friend about my book and, she just started
there you
handing
go.
me stuff. So,
Exactly.
I don't even know what's in that bag. I'm like, "What is this?" It just says Star Wars. Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll figure it out. Maybe this one's going to
Yeah.
get resold.
So when did you first realize that Lego building wasn't just fun, but it also kind of had a dual purpose? I mean, you mentioned you kind of mentioned coming home from therapy, being in the garage, but what was that sort of light bulb moment where you're like, "Hey, this is actually doing something for me."
It was slow. It was a slow process. But it really was just like after hard sessions. days where I just felt heavy, or days
Mm.
where I didn't want to just scroll or watch TV, or just I wanted to do something. And, that sense of accomplishment and seeing something. Like I was saying, I'm a maker, so there's a lot of components to that. And, if you're following the set, it's going to look the right way, right? The flower's going to be right, it should look like the picture, and you'll get it every time, but you may take a couple tries. But if you really want to sit and concentrate, you can waste some time and play. We all forget to play
Yeah.
as we get older, right? Like, it's pay the bills, it's, constant scrolling all the time. It's making dinner, pickups, drop-offs, call my mom, do all the things. Where is your me time? You got to find it. And that was yeah, it was slow, but now it's, hit me hard and fast and made me write a book about it. So
So when you were doing that, and again, right, like you mentioned at the top of the episode, like this isn't meant to be prescriptive in any way, but were you completely unplugging? Were you playing music while you were building? Like, because I know sometimes I will like have the TV on and I feel like I'm not getting the full benefit of the build of that sort of mindfulness if I have something else kind of grabbing my attention. So from your experience, is it really important to unplug, or have you found success in kind of, whatever works for you?
when it was heavy days, yes, to unplug, because then it was like full context. But my husband likes to build as well, because, he's like, oh, you're building, I might as well build. So we'll sit and build together with the show on, or some
Mhm.
music on, or, we're sitting in the yard. The dog knows not to come close, so he'll just sit with me, and we'll just be outside.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It just, yeah, it just depends on the mood, because, not every day is dark. So yeah, you want to have music on, but, I like listening to all kinds of music. So yeah, it's just whatever the mood. And it depends on what you're building too, right? If you're building one of those Star Wars sets with all those gray pieces, you're going to need to pay attention, right? So having a show on, I'm going to most likely put a wrong part somewhere. So I don't want to take it apart. So I, sometimes uber focus. But my son will sit there scrolling a whole YouTube thing, doing two things at once. And yeah, I could never. I could never. I could never. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's good advice, right? Which is ultimately it just depends. Depends on the mood you're in, depends on the situation, and but that takes a degree of mindfulness too to recognize what you need in the moment. And so,
Hmm.
but probably something like you mentioned that you have to work yourself into. It's not like it'll just happen one day. You got to kind of
Yeah.
dip your toes.
Hmm.
So,
But it always made me feel better, whether it
yeah.
was 5 minutes, 2 hours, 3 days. Yeah, I always felt better.
So in the book, you say that you mentioned that there are different kind of sorters, and this is on page 35
35. Yeah.
for anyone following along. What did you mean by that, and which one are you?
Well, what your sorting style kind of says how you I think how your brain processes things, right? So there's four types that I kind of outlined here in page 35. There's the shape sorter, right? This is where the kinds of people that like to seek function and purpose, right? You're feeling capable and productive. You put, the right shapes together, the 1x2s, the 6x5s, whatever. That's probably not even a number, but I'm just going by color, however you want to, right? So the next one is a color sorter. You want harmony and visual piece, right? Sometimes you might be overwhelmed and you just need a reset. So you might just want to see a sea of yellow or a sea of red or blue or whatever your favorite color is. And you could just go out and seek that favorite color. And that's what's beauty of Lego too, right? It's a rainbow of colors. So, if you just wanted all green, you could do that because that's my favorite color. And then there's our oversorter. That's me. Where you want to control the environment because everything else feels out of control, right? And it's okay. We've all been there, right? Everyone's been overthinking, overdoing all the things. I've got all the little bins that have it by color and by size, and then all of the botanicals are on one shelf, all of the graveyard of broken sets are on one shelf, my brick heads are placed in another place, my minifigs are all in one place. So yeah, oversorter. Guilty. My name is Another Jones. I'm an oversorter. And then there's the no sorters, and I call these the like chaos builders, right? They embrace improvisation. You tend to go with the flow until something goes wrong. So, and then you just stop sorting, and then you.
And then when the inspiration hits, you just pick it back
Yep,
up again.
just pick it
Yeah.
back up. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
I think this is a wonderful way to explore sorting and processing. And we had an interview with Tom Alphin, who wrote a book about his handle is The Brick Architect, and he wrote a book about not only Lego architecture, but he's got a wonderful page about sorting. And from his standpoint, he's talking about sorting kind of from a purpose of utility. But I feel like there's some
oh
interesting connections there between, because he had very similar conclusions of, like, he mentioned, in his sort of dichotomy of sorting, he mentioned either shapes or colors or by purpose. Um, and and again, right, all with the express intent of sort of getting at utility. And he mentioned, like, sorting by color not being great for distinguishing individual pieces, but it was really good if you were building really large, colorful builds like mosaics or
mm-hmm,
something to that effect, where the piece itself wasn't maybe as important. The shape wasn't, that kind of could go anywhere, whatever it is
mm-hmm.
that you pulled from the bin, for example. And so in that
Sure.
case, it's really more the color than anything else. But I think, thinking about it from your perspective of, like, how this affects your relationship with the Lego and your mental well-being is also a really interesting way to think about it. And I
Yeah.
really like the distinction of oversorter, because you mention it later in the book about being a perfectionist, but I think that is something that, and you mentioned this, right? As adults, we lose this sense of creativity. I think we almost get too hard on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the oversorter is sort of um, maybe a result of that is everything's got to be perfect. And you just can't accept that, like, maybe you only have 2 of these pieces and 20 of these pieces, and they're right next to each other. And you're like, but they're not the same pile sizes. And like, it's
Yep.
okay.
And then it's okay. It's just Lego. Just let it
Exactly.
be.
Exactly. So I
Let it
really,
go.
what kind of made you think? I mean, I know you said sorting was kind of the thing that got you into this. So was that sort of the genesis for this idea of coming up with different, like,
Yep.
thought processes about sorters?
Absolutely. Because like my kids are just throw it in a bin, put it in a shoebox. Like I put it in a Ross bag. Somebody put it in a Ross bag, right? Like I would never do that. I have Ziplocs, and then I would put the instruction books, and then the extra little baby pieces I would use to put them in there. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't need to do that. I can buy a bin thing and then just have fancy drawer. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
Once you start, you get a whole room, but you don't
Yeah.
have to.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I did the same thing where, like, the entire complete set to include all the extras were always kept separately. It's like the instructions
Yep.
and the extras. And then one day I was like, what am I doing keeping all of these separate? Like, they're extra pieces.
Yeah.
Just put them all together or sort them, but they
Yeah.
don't need
Put
to
them
be
somewhere.
kept for the set, right? Like, that's not
Yep.
really their purpose. So,
Well,
anyways,
what type of sorter are you?
oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
So there's the shape, the color, the over, or none at all.
Well, and I don't know if I've been moving a lot, so I've been moving at this point once a year for the last 2 years, and so I don't have my main collection with me. I do have some sets here, so right now all my spare pieces are just in a bag, one bag. So I guess no sorter would be the case for that. But at
No
home,
judgment.
I do have the acro mill set up, the little bins and all the little fancy drawers. But I think I'm a classic oversorter because every drawer has a label. Uh, I
Oh.
sort them by piece with all the colors, and then if there's too many pieces in the box, I start separating them by black, gray, and white, and then the rest of the colors. And it's a system that makes sense to me, but it creates a lot of problems when you have a lot of bulk pieces.
Uh-huh.
And so oversorter, I think, would be my current, or
Well,
based on
welcome.
my history.
Welcome. You are not alone.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice to have company.
What would you call your brother? What do you think he would
Oh,
be?
I think Grinch is definitely. I think we're cut from the same cloth, so I think we both have a degree of the oversorter. Um, Historically, we were color sorters. Well, at first
Oh.
we were chaos no sorters, and then we were color sorters, and that was the kind of the into our dark ages. And then, but I think I think he's a bit of an oversorter too. I think he'd be comfortable admitting that. So we both
Well,
have labels and stuff, and yeah, maybe go a
I
little
love
too
it.
far out.
Do you ever steal from his pile?
No, we had it was just a collection between the
Oh,
two of
okay.
us. So we kind of had a community. We each had when we started buying sets, we each had our own sets, but the donated stuff that we got as kids was kind of the
Ours.
community Lego. So
I love it. Everything is awesome over here, right? As the
absolutely,
song goes.
absolutely. There was some consternation with some pieces every once in a while that got pilfered or repurposed without permission. So just because
we
we were good doesn't mean everything was always perfect. So
we won't speak of those days.
no, no. So you also talked about building styles and what they say
Mm.
about you. Can you kind of elaborate on that as well?
Yeah, I was thinking like, the building styles kind of talk about how you go through stress, how your brain processes things. And in the book, I mentioned stress, but it really could be about anything now that I think about it. And there are 5 types, right? There's your good old instruction follower, right? You love structure, you want the clear steps, predictability, and this is page 68 in the book. And it's soothing control, right? You're the people who get relief from doing things right, especially when life feels, a little crazy, because it is right now. And then there's the freestyler, right? You dump the box and you just go. You build with vibes and imagination. You're curious. You express yourself. Maybe you're a little scattered, but you're deeply creative. Don't let him. I like a freestyler. And then there's the sorter who never builds, right? You love the idea of building, but mostly we just sort again and again. You might be craving some peace. There's no pressure. There's no control. It's just control, not chaos, right? And then there's those random rebuilders, right? That like to take things just apart to make it better, right? Rebuild it and make it better. You don't feel scared of anything being broken. You just go in and you fix it. And then my favorite, which is my son Max, the Chaos Goblin, who will build a castle on top of a car with a dragon head and a minifig that's got, some random thing in his hand. No rules, no shame, maximum dopamine, right? Just go with the flow. And you ask which one am I? I'm guilty of all of them. Right? It's the mood, right? I'm not
Just depends,
this one.
yeah.
Yeah, it just depends, right? But it it really does tell us what's happening in our life n- organically, right? Just what mood you're in without having to think about it too much. So just allowing yourself your that time to play and process, you're kind of seeing where you are at that moment. And what are the thoughts that come to your head when you're doing this? Are you lost in the activity, or is this helping you not think about something else and you're escaping from something else? But we don't want to escape, talk about escapism, but it's just a way to soothe and just be yourself. Have
Yeah.
some time.
Well, I like your description of the Chaos Goblin because you say we build a castle on a car with a dragon head and a minifig DJ. No rules, no shame, maximum dopamine. And I think it's funny because I very much, I think, am an instruction follower, which is
Mm.
not a surprise, given my background, and I'm sure my wife would agree and my brother would agree as well. Every once in a while, I'll freestyle a little bit with some sets, and but never to the degree of putting a dragon head on a castle or a castle on a car or whatever, right? And but it's funny because at some point we learn to go like, well, that's not the way that's supposed to go,
Mm-hmm.
but it's completely internal and made up. It's like a made up limitation that we place on ourselves,
Oh yeah,
and I don't know when that occurs. I think it occurs at different times for everybody, but I that is one of the things as an adult that I really like about Lego is it allows me to interrogate my feelings about that stuff of when I see something and I'm like,
absolutely.
that's not the way that's supposed to be. I go, well, wait, why do I feel that way? And like, what is it about? Like, you know, I get it, right? Like maybe I'm more into seeing how Lego can be represent, real world things, for example. And so for me, that's the way that the order should flow, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, and these are other possibilities, right? And so I just think that's one of the really interesting things about Lego and how that kind of plays out.
Oh, absolutely. Like, my husband owns a eyewear shop. And so, like, I took extra pieces and made like a fake pair of glasses. And I'm like, ooh, can I put lenses in these? And then I've dropped it a couple of times and I'm like, can I make it move? Like, so it's that was my like, I'm learning to play with mocks. So, allowing myself to not even have instructions, right? To be like,
Yeah.
how would the looking at a pair of glasses and then be like, okay, would this work? And then what colors can I use? And then, yeah. So that was a fun one to do. That was
And
my
for
chaos goblin.
yeah, and that's such a huge building moment because creating something from nothing requires patience. It requires forgiveness and grace. It requires courage. I mean, there's so many different things that kind of go into mock building that I feel like we don't always acknowledge. And sometimes we just see the end result and we're like, meh, or, oh, that's really cool. And we don't really see all of those things underneath that kind of take it to get there.
Absolutely. Well, and then we judge ourselves, right? Because
Yeah.
you have to have all those votes for,
Guilty.
someone to, have your set made. And then that's the goal, right? Is to have someone to have the official Lego box with your set on there. And, it's got a dragon head and a DJ. Like, no, it's supposed to. That was the mood.
Yeah. You just
And
build
it's
for
for
you.
my O's only. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
This is my dust in my corner over here.
Yeah. Well, and then you also mentioned just kind of the building process.
Uh-huh.
And this was something we did an episode about a year ago, kind of around similar lines of the therapeutic process. And I compared it to uh, going through a labyrinth. And have you ever been through a labyrinth
Hmm.
before? You see them at religious sites, churches, or I think there's one at the National Cathedral in DC. There's sometimes at hospitals,
Yep.
in kind of courtyards and stuff. And for the listener who's not familiar, a labyrinth and a maze are different. A labyrinth isn't about reaching dead ends. It's a path. It's one continuous path that like winds its way around. They're generally in circles and
Hmm.
they're meant to be meditative and you just kind of step into the labyrinth and you walk the path and you just think. And I think that's one of the really cool things about Lego. You mentioned if you are an instruction follower, right? Like that very much feels in line with that of like you're getting on the ride. It has a very definitive start, a very definitive end, and you just kind of go in that process and you kind of turn your brain off and just,
Turn the page and
yep.
get on to the next one. Find that one brick and put it with the other brick and
Hmm.
get it together, right?
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting comparison between these two processes. And one, we know that that's really helpful. So I guess in some cases, it's maybe not a surprise that it turns out Lego very much sort of fits the bill for something like that, right?
Yep. Lego is science.
Yes, it is. So what do you think makes, speaking of which, What do you think makes Lego bricks uniquely suited for mindfulness or healing compared to other creative outlets? We've maybe already talked
Mm,
about a creative outlet that is similar to Lego, but maybe some of the other ones, like what about Lego itself just kind of makes that work?
that's a great question, Ian. Like creativity, there has to be an idea, right? So you got to come up with your idea. Lego has the idea for you, right? It's there. It doesn't have to be this. You could be the goblin, right? You could be a follower. You can, it it activates something in your brain like the flow state, right? You're just, oh, okay, snap snap. It's tactical. It's grounding, so like clicking things together and doing things with your hands, but
Hmm.
it's simple, right? Because every piece is going to fit together. So you're guaranteed the creativity is going to work if you follow the instructions, right? But if you need to make a movie, the idea is all yours, and you got to figure out what it looks like, and all, just depending on what creativity. If you're painting, if you're
Yeah.
writing, whatever creative outlet you're doing, that idea has to source from somewhere, and our good friends at Lego do that for us. So I think it helps take that pressure off, right? And you know hopefully it looks like the picture. Unless you're a goblin, right? Unless you're the chaos goblin. But hey, no judgment. It's
Yeah.
okay.
There is sort of a bargain that we enter in when we build a Lego set where Lego gives us the pieces. They give you
Mhm.
the instructions. They don't build it for you.
No.
And they go, hey, you follow this instruction booklet with the
Mhm.
pieces we've given you. And eventually you will get to, whatever it is that you bought. And
Mhm.
however, how you get there, how long it takes you to get there, you could put one piece together every single day, but
Yep.
you will eventually get there. And
Absolutely.
I, I really like the point you made about like a painter, just as
Yeah.
an example, or someone making a movie. But we'll use a painter. Just you've got your oil paints, you have your canvas, it's
Mhm.
your Bob Ross studio that you've got set up.
Yep.
But you don't know what the finished product is.
Nope.
Maybe you don't have all the colors you want, or you have to make the colors, right? And so
Yep.
there's all these sort of options. And I think some people thrive in those conditions.
Mhm.
Clearly, Bob Ross did.
Mhm.
But
Some
but you
get
do have
there.
to have practice
Mhm.
with Lego. They constrain you a little bit. Hey, here's 300 pieces.
Mhm.
You don't have everything in front of you, but you got a little bit. You don't have every color in front of you, but you got they're all different colors. So you
Yeah.
can take one set and create something, but it can't become anything. There's still some constraints, and I wonder if those constraints are helpful to some extent.
I think so. I mean, I think they don't put words on the page for a reason,
Yeah.
because then ooh, you're then reading and doing the things, right? So you're looking at the visual, and you look at your hands, you look at the pieces, and you're like, oh, that's how it is.
Hmm.
And then you go on, right? So then it's visual. It's you're seeing, you're using your hands, you're using your
Yeah.
senses,
Yeah. That's that.
and it's you're not having to process too much, and you can, if you want it to look like layer, you could just make a box out of the pieces they gave you.
I think you're onto something there with how intentionally it connects multiple of your senses in a way
Hmm.
that's very purposeful and where life, your senses are normally used as like a flight or fight response.
Yeah,
But now you're connecting them together, not to fight
yeah,
or flight, but just to exist. And I'm sure that is very calming.
and it's a satisfying click.
Yeah.
Putting those pieces together, right, and then seeing it, and you're like, oh, oh, I
Yeah.
made
I mean,
some.
so not only is it a physical feeling, tactile, sense and visual sense, but there's an auditory sense as well. So
Absolutely,
I don't know if smell. I
absolutely.
don't know if we can quite get smell. Legos don't have a much of a smell to them, but but yes.
Well, they give you pain. You feel it if you step on one.
I
So,
mean, there you go too, right?
yeah,
So,
there's another
yeah.
sensation. Maybe that's the taste. That's the taste they're giving us. Pain if you step on one.
Uh, so you also talk about using play to rebuild ourselves. And,
Yeah.
you know, what does rebuilding through play actually look like in someone's daily life? Like, can you kind of talk through that a little bit more?
Sure. Like, it doesn't have to be dramatic, right? Like, this isn't to be, oh, go play and, quit your job and just build Lego all day. It's just getting those small everyday moments, right? Um, let the bricks do what they do and, let go of the control, get some freedom. Um, on page 63, I talked about building a grief garden, right? So, like, this is my grief garden for the fall season. And so, like, if something bad is happening or something good is happening, I just take some of the little flower pieces and I build something and that's how I was feeling that day. So some days you could see the crappy days where it's a little less, but then some days it's a little creativity and there's a little extra and a little flair, right? That shouldn't be there. But, these are parts that I just lose but I'm trying to repurpose and just go on. So yeah, that's on page 63, right? And then, you know, I it's just it's personal now, right? I carry little minifigs with me, and I talk about doing a minifig diary. So these are my compatible minifigs. This is my husband and me. I'm the one with no arm. I've got one arm and he's got both arms. But then I made I used a little
Oh, yeah, brick
brick
separator.
separator and then some wheels. Oh, I lost the other wheel somewhere. And then, I leave this on my desk. So if I'm on a call or if somebody's, I just play with that or I'm like, ooh, later I'll be like, I like to write and do things in my diary. So I'm like, she can say things that I can't, right? This guy might say something, or they were in a scene, right? They were in a party and they were at this office meeting and how would they react? And so it's my way to just get outside of all the things, right? I love the erasers, all the stationery. So like I like to just keep little pieces with me. So
Hmm.
like I can do these things, right? And I get people see these on my desk or the pens and then they'll be like, "Oh, that's so cute." And it just gives conversation, right? And it just something that's outside of what we're all doing, pause and play.
Yeah. You mentioned in your book too, kind of using the minifigures in like a narrative methodology,
Yeah.
right? To help either visualize something that you were feeling or something that maybe occurred or a moment in time or um,
Totally.
as just a way to kind of work through your, process something, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a really interesting idea.
Well, thank
S-
you. An example of that for our listeners is like probably on page 115. So like I have activity pages and this is just a larger version of my kind of daily diary and um you know, I what are what's the confident me saying? What is the minifig doing? How are they feeling that day? What happened? And so if it's you don't want to express yourself, you could put your personality into one of these things and ask the questions, what part of me am I proud of? What part of me am I second guessing? What makes me laugh? What do I need to focus more on? And so, like, there's a bunch of pages in the book that just kind of ask you these questions so you can kind of ask yourself in a playful way. Not that serious, diagnosing type thing and think about your feelings and make it so difficult and, hard. And it can be playful and healing can be playful. And, it's just a process and, give your time that time and space to yourself, right?
yeah.
It's and minifigs are cheap, right? They're $5. Um, you can buy these guys, you can get them all over the place. Now you can collect them with the little QR codes and find them all. When I started buying these, I have 10 of the same guy. So, you guys are lucky now.
And you mention it on page 8 at the beginning that the book is part memoir, part creative guide, and part love letter to the AFOL. But I would also argue, based on what you described and looking through sort of the back section of your book, it's also a little bit of a diary, right? And it is a guide. It's a meditative guide. And I was thinking about your book this week, and one of the things that came to my mind today was it kind of feels like a paper bound version of like what a yoga instructor does during like a yoga class. Like they lead you through the experience, but they're not doing the exercise for you. They might come and correct your posture every once in a while. They might have a different change in the pace halfway through the class, but I mean that is kind of what the Lego experience is, but it also feels kind of like what your book does too, a little bit. And it asks you to think about how are you feeling, like both physically and mentally. And so yeah, I don't know if hopefully that's a compliment. I think it kind of is. Like I
I
think
think it is. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it. Um, but it's also, you don't have to verbalize it, right?
yeah,
Or you don't have to move your body in those weird ways, right? Sometimes you can't get yourself in a whatever position that you need to be in, but the bricks are going to click.
yeah,
They're going to come together, and you can process whatever you're going through, good or bad, and keep that private and, or playful or however you want to. So I take that as a compliment. And yeah, like I said, I don't know what to do with my hands when people say nice things. So thank you for that.
Well, we've been chatting now for a good bit of time, so I want to ask you just a couple more questions.
Sure.
And that is, if listeners remember just one message from your book, what should that be? What should be their main takeaway?
That we're allowed to heal in small, weird, gentle ways. Um, and you don't have to do it alone. There's a whole community of us that do it. So, pick up a brick by brick, get
Yeah,
started.
I love that. And then, a fun question to end on. What is your favorite color to build with?
Anything not in the 50 shades of Lego gray. Oh my gosh. All those Lego grays, I don't know how they build in those, but seriously, I'm not that girly girl. I don't, wear pink and, lots of lipstick or makeup. But I gravitate towards the pink and purple builds, bricks. So like if I'm in a reseller store, if I go to Lego store, I'll grab just pink and purples or the fun colors that kind of stick out but that aren't in the sets, because I want to explore mocks a little more in my
Yeah.
in my collection. So like for October I was invited to a uh this festival type thing, and they were looking for artwork to be donated, right? So I was like, I don't want to make a painting and I don't want to do anything else. So I was like, ooh, what could I do with the Lego? So I made the pink ribbon for breast cancer,
Hmm.
and I made a mock, and I put a backing in it. I put it on a frame, and that was the highest bidder of the whole auction. So that was fun to see, and it was like the first time
That's
I
so
ever
cool.
made like a mock. And then it took me time, but $20 worth of bricks, but somebody now is displaying my artwork in their house, or maybe it's in their garage. I don't care, but it went to charity, and it was like just something that was fun with color and with a theme, right? The creativity came to me a lot quicker, because of I had these pink bricks. I had the tools, right? I didn't need to go find paint. I didn't need to find the right brush. I didn't need to make sure my canvas was. No, it all kind of was all there for me, and I just started. Oh, a ribbon kind of looks like this. Oh, I can add this color pink. So that was, yeah.
Do you have a picture of that on your social
I
media?
I do. It is on
Okay,
my it's on my Instagram.
wonderful.
It was a fun event. Like those, those ladies that do the dances with their fans. Like they were out there. There were some ladies dancing in their 60s, and so it was just a fun day. And just my Lego display was out there, but people stopped. And I had my own little garden out there, and I said, "Hey, grab some bricks. Put something in the garden for me." And so they would stop and talk, and it was just a great day to be outside and raise some money for a good cause.
Nice. That's awesome.
I put it into like I joined one of those Facebook groups that these, botanical groups or AFOL, I'm trying to find more friends because that's what you do in your 40s at night. And I put a picture of that in one of those groups, and I was shocked at the engagement that it had because
Yeah.
people were like, "That's great. Why doesn't Lego make a ribbon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, calm down. Do you want me to send you the little, the draft I made to make sure I had all the right pieces? I'll send you a screenshot of it, and you can make it at home yourself, or we could do it together if you want." But yeah, you can find it on Instagram. Yeah, that was a really fun day and exciting for me because yeah, my little $25 project m- is helping somebody.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Well, with just a few more minutes left, do you want to? Is there anything you would like to plug, or I'll give you the last word for tonight.
Oh my gosh, I just want to say thank you both for giving me this opportunity. Grinch, we miss you. And I know you've got the book over there too, and I spoke with you yesterday, so that was great to connect and hear your thoughts about it too. But you guys are the first that have given me real feedback from a reader. I'm a maker, so like I get an ick factor when people see my work. It's never good enough. So like I see all the little flaws that I forgot and little things that I missed in illustrations, but no one else sees that, right? It's that perfection in me. So I thank you both for giving me the time and space and for purchasing one. Like I didn't, yeah, I wasn't expecting that, and I would love to give a copy to one of your listeners.
Wonderful.
So, however you want to do that, I have a limited edition pencil that goes with it that says every color clicks, and there's only 24, so you'll get number 5. And I'm gonna let the pod tell you how you get it. Now you can win.
Well, another Jones, thank you so much for taking time tonight to talk through not only your experience as an AFOL, your experience as an author, and how Lego has helped you. And I think sharing that with other people not only gives them maybe a framework for how Lego can help themselves, but also, makes it clear to people that like it's okay and there's a way to address, feeling and you know, giving people permission to feel, I think is hugely important, and I think especially for young men, I think for anybody, like it's difficult,
Yeah,
it's hard, and we don't always grow up being told that that's okay, and
yeah.
so I think it's lovely that you've given us this example where you've given us permission to feel. So thank you.
Oh, that's a great compliment. Thank you so much. And yeah, anyone that wants to connect, you can reach me online. I'd love to have another friend that's in the AFOL community. We're stronger together, guys. We're stronger together.
Absolutely.
Um, and yeah, like I said, thanks again. Can I take a pic of us? Because this is like Mom's first
Yes,
podcast.
definitely.
All right, Mom's first podcast. Smile. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much.
Brick mail.
Well, thank you so much, another Jones, for coming onto the podcast today and speaking with me. I had so much fun talking with you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I truly believe that Lego has more therapeutic benefit than I think we sometimes acknowledge in the AFOL community. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a given, but I think it's one of those things when you stop and think about it, you're like, oh man, yeah, that totally makes sense. I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, I think it's sometimes subconscious. So I think it's really great to talk about that. I think it's really great to hear from people who've used Lego in that capacity. So I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with myself. You sent uh, we got a copy of your book. It's a lovely book. Highly recommend it for any AFOL who's just kind of looking for a nice little escape. And as she mentioned, the back of it, there's opportunities to color things and to kind of take some notes and observations. And so it's just a lovely piece of work, and we're really excited to share it with a larger AFOL community. But next, let's talk about some brick mail. And we've had a nice conversation. So I've got one email for the podcast tonight. This is from Ethan, who wrote in a week or two ago. It says, "Hey, Grinch and West, I just wanted to say I love the podcast. I listen to it on my way to Lego, and it always makes the trip better. I got into Lego around 2018 when I built a Lego table for my daughter to play with. Later, when my son was old enough to walk, he started remodeling it. So it's been in storage at my dad's until recently. Now that we've moved into a bigger place, I'm building a new table using 2 IKEA Trofast units. It's going to have Lego Friends, Marvel, and a Dungeons and Dragons section with a river and even Speed Champions. Also, I don't get why some people dislike the mini dolls. They're awesome. Without Lego Friends, we wouldn't have all those great colors and design elements that make the build so unique. I've attached a picture of my first Lego table. Keep up the amazing work. Love what you guys are doing for the community. All the best, Ethan." And Ethan, thank you for writing in. He did send some pictures with his email of kind of his original Lego table. And I think, first off, just kind of love hearing your own story of how you got into Lego and kind of what your plans are. And I love hearing how people approach things differently. We see a lot of people on Instagram and social media, and we love to see them, right? We love to see the cities. We love to see some of the niche collections. Star Wars is obviously a big one, but sometimes it's really fun to hear from people who are doing things a little different. And Ethan, I think that's okay to say, but I think you're kind of doing things a little different here with your Lego Friends and Marvel and D&D section and Speed Champions, right? And yeah, totally, go for it, right? So really cool to hear how you're engaging with the hobby. And I mean, I certainly, we've talked back and forth now for the last few episodes about mini dolls as we've had guests write in and comment on it. And I think you're totally right. I think the mini dolls as a place in Lego has done a lot for the Lego community. You can almost mark a pre-mini doll timeline and a post-mini doll timeline, and the colors and the pieces that we've gotten along with mini doll related themes have been wonderful inclusions in kind of the larger Lego universe. And it's fair to make that argument that we might not have gotten that without mini dolls. So I think that's totally fair, right? And doesn't necessarily change how I feel about it, but I think that is a great observation to make, and love that is something that you engage with and that is bringing you joy. So thank you again for writing in, Ethan, and we appreciate it. And last, I wanted to just follow up our Instagram poll from a few weeks ago about which adventure sub-theme is better. And unfortunately, it was a tie. Everyone who kind of commented on it and voted, we had quite a few people reach out and kind of share their feelings. I am going to call out friend of the podcast, American Bricker, who voted for both A and C, which forced the tie. But just so everyone is aware, the choices were Dino Island, Orient Express, so the original Egypt theme of Lego Adventures, and Dino Island and Egypt were tied 5-5. And American Bricker, I'm going to blame that one on you because you voted for both of them, forcing us into a tie. So lots of love for the Adventurers theme, and we love to see that. Which brings me to my final point today, which is that we're having an Adventurers build competition. And you can submit your Adventures related mock to us on Instagram. Just take a picture of it, take a screenshot of it, tag us in the screenshot and your submission, email it into us. That's okay too, if Instagram is not your jam. And by the middle of December, I believe it's December 11th, we will take all of our submissions, and between us and Wilderland Builds, we will pick a winner, and we have a little bit of a prize for you. So it's just a fun way to explore the Adventures theme in kind of a modern context. You can keep it in the time period. You can update it. You can just do whatever you want. You could make adventures out of Duplo if you really wanted to go down that road. We would love to see it. So we want to see what the community can come up with over the Thanksgiving break leading into the holidays. So, like I said, take a picture of it, tag us in it, and you are in the competition. So thank you guys. And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.